So today I want to share with you a little bit more about emotions and the emotional eating pattern. So if you're new here, welcome. My name is Michelle. I'm a certified holistic nutritionist specializing in emotional eating. And I wanted to talk about emotions and the emotional eating pattern because I think it can get a little bit, not confusing, but the way we view emotions in society can really impact our emotional eating. And so emotional eating is a coping mechanism. So that means that we use food to cope with our emotions, to cope with any discomfort that comes up, to cope with life, with stressors. And this is a pattern, what I find with clients, that would have formed when we were really young, when we were children. And the reason for this is that when we're really young, when we are developing, we need our parents and caregivers to model to us, to hold space for us, and to help us move through our emotions, our discomfort. We're not born just knowing how to do this. We need that model to us. But what happens in our society is that most of our parents wouldn't have been modeled this. They wouldn't have known how to move through emotions, to understand what they meant, to understand the information emotions are giving to us. And so what we do as a society is that we think we have to shut down our emotions, maybe in an effort to look civil, not really understanding that these processes, these sensations, this sort of body expression is something important to look at. It's giving us information. And so we're told, we're sort of given this message that something's wrong with us for having emotions. We're too sensitive. We might have been shamed or ignored. And so we think something's wrong with us. This is just the psychology of a young child. And so we have that discomfort, those emotions still remain in us, and we have to find a way to deal with that discomfort. So we start looking for things, and food is really readily available. It tastes good. It's connected to love, to our mother. Food physiologically feels good in our body. It releases feel-good chemicals. And then, of course, with processed foods, it's amped up because they're designed to give you more of a dopamine rush. So this becomes a really obvious choice to cope. And to be honest, if we look around at our society, most of us are emotional eaters. We use food not just as a nourishment, but we use it to make us feel good, to shift our mood. And food does have that place. Food has that power, but we want to use it in a way that is in connection to our body. But when we have this coping mechanism, everything is kind of swirled and mixed in, and it's not as simple as feel your emotions. When we get to the stage of having this coping mechanism, there are so many layers that are connected in our relationship to food, our body, our emotions. There's many layers. And so someone selling you sort of a one-off magic trick is not going to actually resolve this pattern sustainably. And I can sit here and tell you exactly how it's formed, but me telling you how it's formed is not giving you the tangible tools and processes, guidance and space to actually move through this. That's what we need. That's what we would have needed at this younger age. And we're put in a position right now where we need to give that to ourselves. We need to kind of, cut our losses and realize we weren't given these tools. We weren't given this guidance. We weren't given this space, and we can relearn it. And we need to do things in a different way because what's been given to us is not helping us move through this pattern. So I want to dive a bit deeper into what emotions are, why those band-aid fixes, they don't work, and how we can actually move through this pattern. So emotional eating, like I said, is a coping mechanism. And so that means it's really ingrained. It's a very strong pattern. It's in our subconscious. It has 95% power versus our willpower, 5% of our mind. So as adults, when we see we have an issue, we want to change it, we consciously want to change it. We have 5% power, and we can start implementing those steps. And we need to repeat it and practice it and keep going. But when we have a coping mechanism like emotional eating, it's very powerful and it presents a lot of resistance. And so it has 95% power when it's activated. So for as much as we want to have a healthier relationship to food, or maybe eat well or not go to food, or all of this, if we don't know how to work with this deeper pattern, and we're just using willpower, we are going to lose. And we're going to be in these cycles for many years and decades. I just see this happening because we don't understand what's going on, and we're still buying into the old rhetoric of we just don't have enough willpower, or something's wrong with us, or we're broken, or, I just need more willpower. I just need to keep pushing at it. These are very old myths and old realities. That's not how this works. And so when we have this coping mechanism, it means that this is how we decided a really long time ago to deal with our emotions. And we didn't know how to actually move through and process and be with our emotions to hear their wisdom, because they give us information about our life. Think about if something happens and it makes you sad. That sadness is telling you there's something there that hurt you, and we need to explore what that is and evaluate it. So let's say you're 5 years old, you're at school, someone is mean to you, you're sad, you come home and you move through your sadness. Your parents are holding that space, they guide you through it, and your nervous system gets calm, and your mind is open to hear a new way. We start talking about what happened, and we realize maybe that other child was having a bad day because 99% of the time they're your best friend. Or we realize 99% of the time this kid is not being really kind to you. Now we can start deciding and looking at what makes a good friend. What boundaries do we need to have? Do we need to speak to the teacher? We can start having a plan, a resolution to move forward, so that now at 5 years old, we feel advocated for, seen, heard, understood, accepted, and we feel safe in what our parents are creating for us. Most of us would not have had that, or we wouldn't have had it to the degree that we actually really needed to have it. And so our emotions are very powerful and informative when we know how to listen to them and move through them versus dismissing them. And what I see with a lot of clients that work with me that have this pattern is they have this part of them that feels like their reactions, they have overreactions to situations. They don't have a lot of compassion for themselves. They think like they're being childish. Funny enough, they think something's wrong with them, and they're walking around internally really punishing themselves. And they don't, because they have this mentality about emotions, or that they should be a different way, or their, let's say, adult persona is more developed, they push away emotions. And they actually, when they do that, they're shaming themselves internally. They're pushing these emotions down further. And there's so much gold in these emotions, because these emotions are popping up because there's something in our current reality that's very similar to what happened to us that might not be what we want, or we might need to move through it, or we just needed to actually have that healthy sort of container to just move through and process our emotions. We're having a hard day. Because when we don't do that and we keep saying we're having a big reaction and we dismiss our emotions, what happens is that that pattern, that emotional eating pattern, grows stronger. Those emotions get bigger, and then we don't know what to do, and we emotionally eat. And so we never really tap into what that emotion was telling us. And then we're back in the spiral of emotionally eating and then shaming ourselves because we have no control, but we've been telling ourselves we're overreacting and our emotions, we shouldn't feel this way. Sometimes those messages are around the way we feel towards maybe our parents or caregivers, things that in society would tell us you shouldn't talk that way about your mom or feel that way. Or we might have learned these messages from our parents or caregivers that prevent us from expressing just what is coming up for us. So emotions are true for us, but it doesn't necessarily mean the perspective is true. But we need to actually move through the emotions to turn on our prefrontal cortex, our logic, to know what's going on. And that sadly is not happening when we are emotionally eating. We're shutting down all of this. So we are just like skipping out on a big part of life that we should have been modeled to. And this is where we are looking externally for the right thing to do. We're looking externally for someone to tell us what to do and making choices in our life, maybe because it's the right thing to do, because this is what we were told. This is how we would get acceptance and validation. And we just keep going. But internally, our emotions are constantly trying to tell us we're off track, something's wrong, and they they build up. And especially with stressful situations, they're going to keep coming up for us to look at them. And we might actually create more stressful situations because we're not listening to what's really going on this deeper level. So all this is to say, our emotions are important, and they're an important part of our existence, and they're giving us information, and they're nothing to be afraid of. And when we don't move through them, they create unresolved events in our lives and traumas that get stuck in our body, and that are re-triggered. And then we didn't learn how to actually move through and be with them, and we use food to cope with it, which then creates other issues around our body. We have issues around our emotions because we judge them. There's lots of stuff going on here. And all of the judgment in all of these areas trigger more uncomfortable emotions that put us deeper into this pattern. So our perspective on all of these things need to shift. But we need to, what my goal of this video is really to tell you that emotions are important, and we need to learn how to be with them in a really safe way, in a resourced way, in a healthy way, and understand that they're not going to take us over. They're not going to derail us. They're actually here to help us navigate our life if we know how to access them. They're here, they're showing up, telling us there's parts of us we need to integrate to become more whole. So and when we do that, we also have more clarity. We're more calmer. We feel more at peace and ease. And we're no longer going to use food to soothe ourselves. We're no longer going to feel that shame spiral in our body, because as we integrate and we shift the shame we feel around this to more acceptance and compassion, we actually shift our nervous system from fight or flight to rest and digest. And that's where the peace and ease and confidence and better digestion and losing weight and all of that good stuff lives. And that's what we want to do. And so inside of the Emotional Eating Evolution program, which is my step-by-step methodology, this is where we do all of this work. It's not a magic bullet. It's not a one-off thing. It's a process. And there are layers to this process, and we move through the layers, these shifts in perspective, the correct action steps to connect back to your body, to move through your emotions on this deeper level, not just being aware of it in your head, to get to resolution, to get to the root, to resolve this pattern, because it's what we would have needed. And so now it's time to give yourself what you didn't have. It's time to give yourself the tools. And this is so amazing because now the possibility is there to resolve this pattern. You're not broken. Something's not wrong with you. You just didn't have the right tools to move through this, the right process and guidance and container. And now through this program, you can do that. I see this with clients time and time again. It's like, finally, I hit the nail on the head. This is the thing that I've been searching for, that I couldn't find in the diet when I reached the goal weight, that I couldn't find when I was just going to talk therapy and kicking up dirt, and I had no real way to move through and process these deeper things. When I was like, exerting myself at the gym and punishing myself, none of those things gave me what I was truly looking for to feel that deep resolution. And so this is what we do inside of the program. So if you're resonating with what I'm saying and this feels like the right container and program, I'd love to invite you to find out more about the Emotional Eating Evolution program. You can check out more at the link below. This is a step-by-step process. It's a 12-week container full of lots of support, accountability, coaching, deep in-depth somatic meditations, and a space where you can move through this layer by layer. So you can check out more about the program below. And if you feel like this is the next best thing for you, you can also book in an emotional eating clarity call. On the call, we find out more about you, what your goals are, and how we can support you in the program, or if you are a fit. So I'd love to invite you to check those out at the links below. So if you have any questions about what I've shared today, please let me know. Please be sure to like and subscribe if you haven't. And I look forward to sharing more with you, and I hope you have a great day.